What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors suddenly finds himself in an interview that goes completely off the rails? The night Liam Neeson appeared on The Graham Norton Show started out like any other episode, light-hearted, funny, and full of charm. The bright red sofa, the familiar laughter from the studio audience, and Graham's signature grin all created an atmosphere that promised yet another entertaining conversation. Liam, known for his calm and thoughtful presence, looked completely at ease as the cameras began rolling. They opened with a discussion about his latest action film, and the back and forth between the two felt smooth and effortless. Graham tossed in a playful comment about Liam's famous particular set of skills, and Liam responded with the dry, understated humor that fans have come to expect from him. Nothing felt tense or unusual. Everything appeared typical, until Graham introduced a topic that instantly changed the room's energy. With a mischievous spark in his eye, he said, "So, Liam, I have to ask you about that charity event last month, the one everyone's been talking about." The audience chuckled softly, anticipating another one of those viral celebrity stories that talk shows love. But Liam's smile faded just a little, just enough for anyone paying close attention to see that something had shifted. "I'm not sure what you mean," he replied, his tone steady but slightly wary. Graham went on, "You know, the one where you gave that speech about endangered animals and had a bit of a microphone mishap." The crowd laughed, clearly expecting a light-hearted anecdote, but Liam's posture stiffened slightly, and everything in his expression suggested he didn't find the situation amusing. "I was giving a speech about conservation efforts," he said calmly. "I'm not sure what was so funny about that." Graham, perhaps misunderstanding the seriousness behind Liam's reaction, pushed forward with his usual jovial energy. "Well, it's just that the podium tipped over, and you might have let out a few words that weren't exactly family-friendly." The audience laughed again, but Liam remained serious. The silence that followed each laugh grew heavier, stretching longer than usual, almost as if the audience was starting to sense that something wasn't right. "That was a private moment," Liam said firmly, "and it wasn't meant for entertainment." From that point on, the atmosphere changed drastically. You could feel the tension settle over the room, a quiet heaviness that only happens when something unexpectedly real intrudes on a show built on humor. Graham looked uncertain, clearly caught off guard, unsure whether to keep going or pivot to a safer subject. Instead of backing down, he tried to smooth things over with charm. "Come on, Liam," he said lightly. "You have to admit, it's a little funny. Even movie heroes have clumsy moments." Liam leaned in slightly, his gaze steady and unflinching. "You think it's funny to turn someone's genuine effort into a punchline?" And with that simple question, the laughter came to an immediate halt. It suddenly felt as though two worlds were colliding. The world of light-hearted entertainment and the world of sincere, meaningful intention. Graham, still trying to regain control of the room, gave a small, nervous laugh. Look, people love seeing celebrities being human. It's all in good fun. But Liam didn't crack even a hint of a smile. "Do you really think mocking someone's genuine passion is good fun?" he asked quietly. There was no anger behind the words, only disappointment. The audience, unsure whether they were watching a joke or a real confrontation, grew still and silent. Graham tried again, pushing forward with his usual charm. "I just mean it's relatable. Everyone has moments where things go wrong." Liam's answer was calm, but razor-sharp. Have you ever stood in front of hundreds of people trying to raise money to protect animals that are disappearing from the planet, only for that moment to be turned into a joke for entertainment? The air in the room felt heavy. Graham's smile faltered. "Well, no, I suppose not," he admitted quietly. Liam responded before he could say anything else. "Then maybe you don't understand what that moment meant to me." You could practically feel the mood in the studio evolving from awkward to deeply serious. Graham made one more attempt to lighten the mood. "Liam, it's not that deep. People just need a good laugh sometimes." But Liam shook his head slightly. "Laughter matters," he said. "But not when it comes at the expense of something meaningful." The audience, normally lively and full of energy, sat in almost complete silence now. It wasn't a dramatic argument. No yelling, no intense gestures, just a quiet but powerful disagreement. Graham finally tried to defend himself. "I wasn't trying to mock you. I think you're taking this too seriously." Liam tilted his head. "That's the problem," he said. "People treat everything serious as a joke until nothing means anything anymore." For once, Graham Norton didn't have a comeback. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every tense moment. Producers whispered frantically behind the scenes, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let the moment unfold naturally. They ultimately chose to keep filming, maybe sensing that something real and rare was happening. Liam wasn't trying to shock anyone. He wasn't being dramatic. He simply refused to turn something he cared about into entertainment. When he finally stood up, the silence was absolute. Graham looked startled, torn between stopping him and letting him walk away. "Liam, wait," he said softly. "We can move on. We'll change the subject." But Liam shook his head. "No, Graham. I think I've said what I needed to say." His voice held no anger, only quiet disappointment. The cameras kept rolling. No one in the audience moved or spoke. Graham tried one final time to save the moment. "We can edit this out. Start over." Liam paused at the edge of the stage, turned slightly, and said, "That's the problem. You want to edit out anything that feels real. You'd rather erase the truth than face it." And then he walked off the set. The door closed behind him, with a sound that echoed louder than all the laughter that had filled the room earlier. Graham sat there, stunned, unsure of what to say. The crew scrambled, whispering, frozen by uncertainty. The audience didn't know how to react. It was one of those rare moments when entertainment gives way to something painfully human. Eventually, Graham thanked everyone and cut to a break, but the weight of the moment lingered. Social media exploded afterward. Some people defended Liam, praising him for standing up for sincerity in a world that often mocks anything heartfelt. Others argued he had overreacted, insisting Graham meant no harm. But regardless of opinion, everyone agreed on one thing. Something genuine had happened on that stage. It wasn't a scandal, it wasn't a stunt, and it wasn't orchestrated for views. It was a moment where real emotions surfaced in a place designed for polished performances. And in my opinion, that's why the moment resonated so deeply. It showed that even in an industry built on appearances, there are people who refuse to laugh off what matters to them. Whether you side with Liam or with Graham, the conversation served as a reminder that passion, respect, and sincerity still hold value. It's easy to make jokes. It's much harder to stand by your beliefs when the world expects you to shrug everything off. In the days that followed, both men stayed quiet. The show moved on, but that one exchange continued to circulate online. Not because it was outrageous, but because it felt real. For once, viewers weren't watching a performance. They were witnessing two different truths meeting head-on, one rooted in humor, the other in conviction. And that is why, even years later, people still talk about the night Liam Neeson walked off. The Graham Norton Show, not out of anger, but out of principle.